know that there are some people in this world that did not tune in to the Alliance Vlog podcast. Shame on you!
Shame on you. My name is Ella Envy, and I'm one half of the NWA Women's World Tag Team Champions.
And I'm Kinsey Page, the other half of the NWA World Women's Tag Team Champions.
And you better go listen to the Alliance Vlog, what is it called again?
Podcast, period.
Or you're ugly. Pretty Empower approved.
Hey guys, check this out. I am officially now sponsored by Dubby. Dubby is a clean energy drink made to give you focus with no crash. If you guys are like me, you're always needing a burst of energy, especially with one with no crash. Dubby contains vitamins, amino acids, a nootropic, and 150 milligrams of caffeine. It keeps me awake with no jitters, guys. Check it out. Merch link is in the bio. Dubby.
We hate that! You already know who it is. It's the radioactive pop with Daniel Limelight, United Wrestling Network World Heavyweight Champion. And make sure you tune into the Alliance Vlog every week. You heard it here first. Straight from Bobby.
Are you ready?
Power. You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
I'm building an alliance. God bless the internet.
Okay.
Let's party. It's showtime.
It's time for the Alliance Guys podcast with your hosts Kevin Frazier, Jaden, DKM, and J. Cal.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Alliance Guys podcast, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. My name is Jay Cal, and with me, of course, are my compadres. One would be Jaden, the other would be DKM. Hey, we have a friend that I'd like to bring on. Somebody you guys know fairly well. David Marquez. Hey, Dave.
Hey, Marquez.
Hi.
He hates me, but hey, you know.
Is he in Hollywood striking right now?
It's hot.
Dave,
Yeah, I bet it is hot.
Dave, you're not striking right now, are you?
Striking? No. I am quite the opposite.
You're working.
Yes. Because the industry does not accept professional wrestling as real mainstream entertainment.
All right.
Yeah.
So you messaged me and asked to come on. You have something you'd like to talk about?
I did. So I was listening, and the dog might bark here. That's what we're doing. We're walking. So I was listening, and didn't take it as if you were talking about me, but the smaller companies are not having a plan, or Billy's vanity. Being someone who's been in the room with all of the people that you're talking about, I could assure you, everybody has a plan. Nobody wants to fail. As much as one thing or another may be in a vain way, just because of personalities and the fact that it is show business. I mean, Vanity got Vince McMahon $9 billion. So, with not just allegations, proof of doing things that were not so cool. So I just want you guys to understand that none of us do this for the sake of just spending money or finding money marks or anything of the like. So if you have some questions, I'd be happy to answer them or find an answer for you guys, because I know you guys are real dedicated to professional wrestling, which is awesome. But I want you guys putting out the right stuff. I know it's opinion, but I don't know. I personally work awfully hard in doing what I do, and I feel that I'm extremely successful at what I do, and I've launched hundreds of careers. So there is a place for people like me or Court Bauer or Scott or Billy at our level. I mean, Scott D'Amore has a major corporation behind him, a big media company, virtually the Turner Broadcasting of Canada. You know, so anyways,
Hey, I do have a question for you involving one of the things we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Because this is one of the things that I do feel can be an issue just in wrestling in general even up when ROH was doing this and everything. So that, this is not something I'm picking on anybody for, but as somebody who does it, what are some of the struggles that you deal with when you're having to tape like a month's worth of shows, or in the NWA's case, up to 2 to 3 months worth of shows in one setting, and then the world changes somewhere in the middle?
I don't have many struggles outside of money, but I'm the truest of independent out there. I have no investors. I am completely independent in the sense that my programming is all financed by advertising. I have that over the rest of them. No one else has sponsors. Everybody's using corporate money or personal money in doing what they do. Court Bauer has investors. I used to direct his show. Like, I met these people. Impact, they have a major parent company. And even when you talk about Ring of Honor, they had a gigantic parent company, and they had a budget of 15, 20 million a year. I operate on under $1 million a year and do what I do. So, and it's all advertising driven, all of it. And still, make a good living. So I don't see problems. I don't look at it maybe as the same point of view as viewers like you guys, because I'm in it. If Corrigan wants to hire Earth and pay them what they agreed to work for, and he's booking something and putting it on the air, and let's say it's vain for himself, okay, so be it. It's his. People could say the same thing when I ran it and, made Blue Demon the champion, or made Brent Albright the champion, or when we were in business with the Jarretts, and, we took the title off of Severn to put it on Ron Killings. It's all these little thievedoms, and whoever has the ball is the guy who's going to run it. I do agree that things would be much better if there was more cooperation, but we don't have to cooperate in today's world, because media distribution, much like what we're doing here right now, it's so accessible. We're all of the age of, boy, wouldn't it be great to be on ABC in prime time? That's not necessarily the case, and I'm a broadcaster. If you've seen in the news lately, Disney's looking to sell ABC. So it's not traditional media, the deal, even AEW's deals. Like, it's big money in the hundreds of millions of dollars, but there's still a huge deficit there. And the WWE, same thing. Like, we're all paying the same prices to people. Like, if you're an enhancement talent on WWE, I believe the starting rate is $250 for the day.
You're correct.
That is well below any type of industry on their level. If you want to say there's only one real company, they're a major supplier of television with a major licensing deal with two big companies, broadcast companies. But they're not held accountable because they write their own rules. So on my show, I pay guys the same price because, in theory, that's the industry standard. They've said it. So, but yeah, it's like nobody's going out there necessarily just to do a giant circle jerk, Everyone has their own plan. And yes, I'll tell you, because I was in the room, Billy does have a 20-year plan. It may not be what you and I would consider. What's that?
that was going to be my question to you without giving up too much inside baseball. I mean, you were in the room, and we've had that debate on this show since Billy's been in charge, that 20-year plan. I mean, I know that you don't exactly follow the NWA, but how close is he been to what he had planned when you were there?
He's still on track. His plan was to produce some sort of weekly television, whether it's a YouTube or fight or, I don't know if you guys know this. They had a Turner deal before AEW came along.
Yeah.
The first deal that we had, quote unquote, was with the Bleacher Report. That's where NWA programming was going to go, and they were going to pay for it. And then AEW popped up, and forget it. One thing I will agree with you guys too. You said that he didn't want investors. That's true. Gary Vaynerchuk offered to put millions behind the Billy Corgan NWA, and he declined it. And how I got into business with Billy Corgan was kind of on the same principles. He came to me and offered me money to put into United Wrestling Network, or Championship Wrestling from Hollywood at the time. And I saw the writing on the wall that I couldn't work with him as a partner in that capacity, because I had my ideas of what we were going to do, and he had his ideas of what he wanted to do. And I was of the old guard, so, it just wasn't going to work.
You're telling me you didn't want Gags the Gimp on your Championship Wrestling from Hollywood and other programmings?
Well, he was on the show. He was just called Johnny Yuma.
You're breaking the fame, Dave.
I've had.
Did we lose him?
We might have lost him.
His internet's probably connecting with the house.
We've done stupid shit by throwing people in the garbage trucks, and we've done our own embarrassing things over the years. So,
okay. So you just admitted that. So let's ask. What is something that you look back and you've seen and you go, what the hell was I thinking?
I don't know.
What was something that you go back and you go, what were we thinking when we did that?
I don't know if I've ever been in that position. And again, I don't think that's vanity or anything like that talking. I mean, we've done silly stuff to grab attention, and it worked for our areas that we were in. But I don't think I've ever done. I mean, Jason probably has a better handle on this than me, to be honest with you. I don't think we've done anything embarrassing, where it's like, fuck, why did we do that? I mean, we did do a tag team tournament that went fucking nowhere. That was stupid. That went on for like a year. That was the dumbest fucking thing. But that's because we had bookers at the time that they sold it to me, and I was like, oh, okay. I forgot do you remember what that was called?
I don't even remember that.
Well, I was going to say, I'm having a hard time remembering that one.
See, must have been great then.
Well, now that you said it, it's like, yeah, you guys did have a tournament for something, but
we did. It was a tag team tournament with like 30 fucking teams, and Angelo and Schmo put this thing together, and it went nowhere fast.
See, that's a legitimate answer to my question, I feel.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think we've done anything embarrassing, nor do I feel that, Yuma playing this Gimp character is embarrassing.
I do.
It's a character.
Yeah, we're going to agree to disagree on that one.
Well, that's fine. You can. But in the realm of, Mantar, like it's something you put on, you have to do things and take chances and use characters that, you may not agree with. Like, it's just like, I'm trying to think of characters we've done over the years. Yeah, we made that one guy a bowling ball, but he didn't last. You remember that guy?
Yes.
What was his name? We made him a bowler.
Yes,
I thought it would work.
I know who you're talking, and that was a Yuma idea. I know that for certain.
Yeah, it was, but it would have worked, and it would have helped him.
Yeah.
But he just wasn't in on it. He didn't want to be the Big Lebowski. He didn't think it didn't work.
I think when it comes to characters, Dave, and I'm going to echo something you've told me years ago. It's like whoever you're trying to produce has to want to be produced. They have to go out there and sell it. And if, you know, in I know that you're a big fan of Yuma, and I know that sometimes you guys aren't exactly on the same page right now, but you've never said a negative thing about Yuma as far as I know. And I think as a fan of someone who represents this NWA, that we've been podcasting about this for over 15 years, Dave. Seeing somebody like Yuma under the GIMP mask, I think, to me, that's just a little bit awkward when you have a program that's kind of like geared towards the family environment.
No, you can't. Yeah, I don't think you can say that, because as upfront as the character is in mainstream entertainment, those characters also exist in movies, in television. So, like, that's a big that's a big stickler with me right now. If you follow like my Facebook and stuff, I'm always asking these questions. Like, why in a movie is it okay for characters to do things, but in pro wrestling, if there's a character near that, or they say something, or they're a Nazi, or they're a, you know, whatever type of a villainous character, it's wrong. You can't do it because it's wrestling. So I don't subscribe to that. That really bothers me, because we're entertainment. We should be able to do whatever we want, how we want, as long as it's telling the story. It's just wrestling fans, for some reason, and it's probably social media more than anything, that now the secret is out there, and it's no longer just an individual playing. You know, Ric Flair is not Richard Flair today. You know, think back when Ric Flair, you know, he was womanizing. He was out there touching women, calling women names. He was doing all the Me Too stuff that today you quote unquote couldn't do on TV, based on what the wrestling fans say. But if he was booked in a movie, as casted in a movie to play that same character of a Hugh Hefner type, you know, in a movie, to be that womanizing, it's okay because he's playing a role. Well, he's playing a role in wrestling too. Now we just know more about his real life.
Yeah.
Hey, we got a question from one of our viewers, Mandy. Hey, Mandy. And she goes, I wonder what Dave thinks about Billy's negative comments on the fans and his booking decisions. Something we've talked about on this show before is that
what do you say?
Billy often comes across as having a chip on his shoulder. The first thing he said, I'm sorry, Jay, were you talking?
No, go ahead.
The first thing he said, he was saying something involving Tyrus, where if you just don't like Tyrus, supposedly what he was trying to say is, if you don't like Tyrus because of his political views, then you're not a wrestling fan, which is a statement in general I can semi-agree with. The way it came out and across to most people is, if you don't like Tyrus as a champion because he brings the heat, then you're not a true wrestling fan. And it really kind of
rubbed people the wrong
blew
way.
up. So there's what he claimed he was trying to say, and then the words that actually kind of came out.
No, I got you. I mean, I have told fans to their faces to fuck off and get out of my building if they didn't like what they're seeing, without a refund. And Jay's been there; he's seen me do it. When you're, I'll tell you this: Billy is passionate about what he's doing. And I don't agree with a lot of what he does in his operation and his managerial style. We're completely different people in that respect. And Billy, I think, he has all the liberty in the world to say what he wants, especially when he's putting millions of his own dollars into it. The statement that you know, if you don't like Tyrus from his wrestling point of view, that you're not a wrestling fan. I don't know if I agree with that necessarily, but he has the right to say it.
Sure. I think,
they have the right to say it, but the fans have a right to react to that too, don't you think?
Oh, sure. Don't buy tickets. Don't go to the show. You have.
And I mean, I agree with that philosophy.
You absolutely do. But George or Tyrus is a great friend of mine, and I don't agree with him at all politically. I don't feel that he necessarily is the person who should be the world champion at this point and as this long from a business perspective. But it's not my business. I don't know if there is some sort of relationship with Fox News and them allowing him to wear the title on television. I don't know what the relationship is. I don't know if it's just to appease or be something different or whatever. I have no idea. But coming from news and coming from broadcast television, I know that someone somewhere high up had to say yes to that. And there should be some sort of reciprocal something there. Didn't he wear the belt in the Super Bowl commercial?
Yeah,
he did.
Well, there you go. So there's some value there too. But again, I don't know what his plans are.
That was back in January too. I don't know if he's still.
Well, it doesn't matter.
We could also debate. We could also debate whether or not him wearing the belt on Fox News or him wearing the belt in the Super Bowl has added value to the NWA. I mean, we just got off of a pay-per-view, the 312 pay-per-view. It wasn't like a sold-out crowd, and he was headlining it. That was his pay-per-view.
Sure.
But again, that's all debatable. And again, it's not a publicly traded company. We don't know the numbers.
Sure.
We can't really speak to that. I can say what I like and what I don't like, but I can't tell you that it is good or bad for business because that information is for Billy, not for me.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, like, just running my company, the car wash commercials that we're still running, they've been on for fucking ever, but they paid me for that.
Yeah.
So I have to run it as long as they keep paying us. So yeah. I don't know what the deal is with Fox or with Tyrus, and what the long-term thinking is there. I have no idea. But as the owner of the company and being in the same position as he is, yes, I think he has all the right in the world to tell someone what he feels. But in the same turn, you guys could say what you want too. Doesn't mean he has to listen to you.
Right. Well, he doesn't. That's for sure.
I know.
Another question I had for you, Dave, is, obviously you have been on broadcast TV, not ABC, not Fox.
Well, that's not true. NBC. I was on 3 ABC owned and operated stations, so I was on ABC. Go ahead.
I retract my statement. But what I'm saying is you haven't been on a major network and you've had a lot of success. I was saying earlier in the show before you jumped on, I think you've been in the Los Angeles market on TV for almost like 14 years now, I think.
If KDOC would have been on the air today, we would be on for 15 years.
So then the point I guess I'm asking is, and you being familiar with Billy, and I can't ask you to speak for Billy, but as a wrestling promoter, why do you think he sticks to a YouTube instead of going the route that you went that could put him on TV? Like, look, we used to talk about it all the time with Bill Behrens and how he would syndicate the Anarchy or Wildside all over the U.S. Why do you think Billy, this is your opinion, not fact, but why do you think Billy doesn't do that with Power or USA or any of the properties that he's had?
Well, it's difficult. It's difficult to find airtime, first and foremost.
He's right. Even with 20 billion stations, it's real difficult. It really is. He's not wrong on that.
There aren't 20 billion stations. There's probably, broadcast television, as an example. There are no longer hundreds of independent television station owners, in your town, wherever you're at. Some way back when the person who built the radio station probably owned the newspaper, and in the 50s or 60s starting a television station. So now there are these station groups. So it's Gray Broadcasting, Nexstar, General Media, Byron Allen. These are basically the major owners of a big Sinclair, big clusters of TV stations. And you have one person makes the decision of what goes on all of those clusters of stations. So a Sinclair or a Nexstar group, they have like 200 plus TV stations each. And I'm sure if you watch local television, you'll notice the trend that the majority of what's on the air anymore is local news. It could be 5-6 hours straight now. There's no more game shows. There's no more really judge shows. You might find that on an independent, but on a network affiliate, that's going to be really difficult to find. So when it comes to a person like me, or Billy, or Court Bauer, or whoever, it's very difficult to find those time slots. So since I was ahead of the game, going back to the 90s, and like Bill Behrens, who knows that, I don't know if people know this, Bill Behrens was a syndicator. That's what he did before he got into wrestling. He worked for Universal. So the Incredible Hulk and those types of shows, A-Team, that was Bill putting them on in the South. So he already had relationships with the TV stations. And I came in the back way in the very tail end of that type of syndication and made friends with people and, been able to do that. But on the Billy side, I tried to put power. I wanted to cut it down. Lagana and we were going to cut it down to, I think, half hours for broadcast, for syndication, especially in Georgia, in Savannah, Atlanta, Southern Alabama, which, drivable to get to Atlanta and at the PBS studio. Billy was against it. He didn't want to do it. And I feel it was because it wasn't that shine of having a big studio or somebody paying you for the programming, being competitive or being considered, on the same tier as the WWE or AEW now. And think about it, New Japan has never had television here, and I tried.
I remember.
No,
I like that show, by the way. I
tried.
I very much enjoyed that show, and I always wish they'd have given you a longer leash on that one, because you were doing some pretty cool stuff. And people don't know it nationally, but here locally, I mean, you had Samoa Joe defending the Ring of Honor World Championship on that program. You had guys like Aaron Aguilera and Adam Pearce and CM Punk and Colt Cabana and Rocky Romero, Ricky Reyes. I mean, TJ Perkins, a great crew to have on.
We had Nakamura, we had Makabe, we had Liger, we had who else was on that damn show? Punk did the commentary.
Yeah, Punk did commentary, and he always threatened to challenge Joe for the title. Yeah, Jay Bradley, if we were going to go back in time there. And one of my favorite moments is you had Makabe on that show, and he wrestled against Samoa Joe for the Ring of Honor title, and that was.
I mean, we did an angle with Adam Pearce and Toru Yano, and then they ended up being tag partners.
The beer and sake connection.
That's
I remember.
I hate that. Yeah, I hate that, but yeah.
I also remember very vividly, Dave, being at the Hollywood Sport Athletic Club when you had I can't say we. I was there, and you had Heat defend the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship against Bryan Danielson, the American Dragon.
That's right.
And Joni Lauer was singing a song at the show, and then we also had Nakamura and Ken Shamrock and like a worked shoot fight that was pretty impressive.
Yeah. I mean, so again, like even with UPW having John Cena, who wasn't John Cena, of course, trying to get them on local television with WWE talent on the show. We had Triple H, we had Minion, what's his name? Naked Midian, was that his name? Midian?
Yeah, Naked
Midian. Yeah.
We had him. We had the Hardys. We had a lot of WWE current people. RVD on our show, Victoria. And we couldn't even get that on local television.
That's true.
And that was then. That was in 99, 2000, 2001.
Hey, Dave.
And XPW bought their way on TV.
Yeah.
When I was producing that show. So it's just so difficult. And that's, Billy, I don't blame him for not wanting to do it. Plus you had to pay for editing, and the show was, live to tape already when we did it in the studio, and, the segments might not line up and you have to shoot new stuff. There's a lot of particulars that go into that.
What about and this is something probably one of our biggest complaints about the NWA. And again, I know this, we're talking about the NWA, a product you're not really affiliated with at this point in
No,
time.
I watch it though. Don't get me wrong. I still watch it. There's tons of my friends there. I watch it.
You know, you have so many people who sat under your leadership tree, your knowledge tree, but you know, the taping schedule, Dave. Like, I always talk about, wow, how does Dave Marquez manage to do one show a month, get 4 weeks of television, 3 to 4 weeks of television, and do it so clean and crisp, and then the NWA ends up doing like 2 or 3 days of TV tapings and stretch that out for months, and then somebody gets injured, somebody gets signed, and the stories just won't line up at that point, and now you're force feeding something or trying to edit it on the fly to try to make it make sense, and why, you know, what's the benefit to doing it, you know, 2 or 3 days worth of tapings for, you know, 3 months of television?
Well, that part I can't answer. I have my way of doing it. It's a proven formula. I don't know from behind the scenes there today. I don't even know who's writing it. I don't know who's in charge. I don't know. You know, I know Billy Trask is still hitting buttons, and he's doing his job. But I don't know anybody else and what they're doing or where they're going with that. There's a simplistic format that you can follow, even if you lose talent, because I've lost hundreds of guys over the years right in the middle of programs. And there's ways to write them off. And usually the promotions will work with you wherever they're going so that you could end it, you know, and wrap it up. You just have to ask. But again, I don't know if it's a personality conflict of people leaving. I'm not too familiar with the NWA and losing talent and whatnot right now. But for myself, you know, we write things out till the end of the year. We already know what's going to happen in January, you know. So it's just planning, and I don't know who's on that end doing that right now. When I was around it, I was a part of it in the planning and creative, not the main guy, but you know, that was all David Lagana. So if he doesn't have a David Lagana there now, I don't know how to answer that.
I mean, I think some of his, you know, I'm going to be fair here. I think a lot of his losses are just people getting signed elsewhere. It's just, you know, by the and Jay was mentioning earlier, like Taya Valkyrie, who still had several canned matches going in the TV tapings, and she's on Impact winning their tag team title. And there was just kind of some, you know, she was talking on the show like, here, I'm going to be around, I'm going to be doing this, and then she's kind of gone. It's just,
well, then like what we do. I mean, we tell the truth. I've many times had guys go on the air and just end it and talk about, you know, their plans have changed, things have shifted, life goes on. I mean, we did it with LA Knight probably 4 times.
real quick, since you brought up his name in DK, I'll let you get to the rest of your question, but this is something we've all thought. If you were in that position of deciding who was your world's heavyweight champion when you were with the NWA that last run, would Eli Drake have been a guy that you would have had beat Nick Aldis for the 10 pounds of gold?
Yeah, and that was part of the plan. If you remember, Jason, you may have been in Port Hueneme. Do you remember when we shot an angle with Brian Cage saying that he was going to be the NWA World Champion and making motions of the belt and all of that? That was all planned. We agreed on that, and Brian Cage was supposed to beat Tim Storm originally, and then somehow, some way, they left California and Nick Aldis got it. But then again, and then, you know, just to show how in I was at the time, it happened at CZW when I owned a percentage of the company. We did it over there. So we knew the video quality would be good. We knew there'd be people there. You know, we knew all that kind of stuff. So, but no, yeah, Ricker was.
Did you know? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Did you know the reaction would be as bad as it was? I mean,
that doesn't matter.
Saw that.
That doesn't matter.
You didn't think that the crowd shitting on everything was bad perception?
No. Because look, we're still talking about it today, years later.
Yeah, but not positively.
Doesn't matter.
Health inspector shuts down a restaurant. It's got publicity. I wouldn't call it good publicity.
It doesn't matter.
I want to go somewhere else because
but understand this, guys. You guys
go back so
from
far.
Your perspective. You guys looking at it from your perspective, from a fan perspective, has zero to do with the business side of it. Because what happens. We continue, and the images are there, and we recut the footage the way we want it. We tell the story the way we want it, the way we need it, in order to get to the next step. Nick Aldis was a big G.I. Joe, and
to Jaden's credit,
he went on to do what he did.
He's been on the business side of it for many, 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 many years. So,
say that again.
Yeah, I've been in wrestling. I've been a wrestler. I've been a manager. I've been a promoter. I've been a commentator. I went to television because I wanted to get into television to do television wrestling.
Yeah.
And I know the perception, especially in this area, that
you're in Jersey. You're in Jersey.
Yeah, in this area,
didn't we sell our belts to you?
Somebody did.
Ricky O.
Yeah, Ricky O did. Yeah.
Those are my belts too.
The television ones.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Let me guess.
He doesn't use them anymore, by the way.
I still have them, but in fact, I'm getting them re-leathered because the leather on that was starting to fall apart. But yeah, they were very nice though, and they were heavy. I like the fact that they were so heavy. But yeah, the perception, and especially in my area, that put the NWA in a very negative light in this area. People did not talk positively about the NWA and CZW. People that were the old school fans hated it because CZW.
CZW is a different story. That's why I got out of it.
Yeah. But there was a real negative perception from the NWA of that happening. That may have hurt NWA in this area. It could have possibly hurt NWA anywhere else, don't you think? Like, when people see that, NWA lost a lot of luster working with CZW. It's the same thing if they were working with XPW.
I don't think so at all, because the numbers when we premiered Power proves that that's not true.
Well,
yeah, but what about in the area? Did my particular area draw really well with the NWA area?
They had no plans to go back to Jersey.
I mean, but you were saying Power's numbers, did they draw well here?
If you can. Look, I really want to shift the subject because this is something that we can argue about forever and a day. And, when it boils down to whatever, it's opinion. But I do want to get your opinion on something. I want to get your opinion on two old school things way back, really tax Dave Marquez memory. So the first thing I want to get your opinion on is, I can't remember the tournament name, Return of Glory, whatever.
Reclaiming the Glory.
Reclaiming the Glory. Yeah. So I want to get your thoughts on that tournament. I'll give a little bit of background on my thoughts to it. I was really excited when they first did it, but then, the first round really seemed to go well, but then we didn't really hear much in the next rounds until Adam Pearce lost to Daniel Bryan, and then we had the final main event that kind of got back in. Now, originally, if I understand correctly, the idea was to put this out on DVD because this was back in the days that DVDs were very popular among wrestling fans, and there are issues there. So I'm kind of curious about if you can tell us what were some of the issues, why that didn't go off of plan, and why kind of in the middle of the tournament we stopped hearing about it.
Because the promoters fell off. People weren't excited about it. They didn't put it together. The matches that was put together by Pierce, me, and Bob Trowbridge. Ed Schumann had a little bit to do with it too. And when we put the tournament together, Brian was scheduled to win. I mean, I'm sure you've seen the photos out there of Brian holding the world title. I shot all those. Those were all shot in Santa Monica on the beach. He was scheduled to go to Perth, Australia. That was going to be his first tour as world champion. That's what those promos were shot for, going to Australia. And it's just the promoters. Like, they just didn't give a fuck, period. If, let's say, we were going to send them a match of, I'm trying to think of names that were in that at the time, let's say Fred Sampson and what's the guy from Atlanta, blonde guy who was
Chad
in it?
Parham.
Okay, so imagine you're a promoter and I'm saying, you, Ricky Nelson, you're going to do the Chad Parham, Fred Sampson match. Go. We're like, who the fuck are these guys? So they didn't get excited behind it, and that's what happened. And why a lot of things were associated with me was because I knew I was going to produce it the right way. Like, we'd get tapes and footage back of one crooked camera. It was embarrassing. Like, I wouldn't put that out, and we didn't. It wasn't what we were trying to do. Like, there was, not to get too fucking nerdy about this, but like I even put a style book together, like an AP style book for the NWA. Pantone color this. The logo has to be presented like this. It can't be this. It can't be that. And everybody told me to go fuck off. So everybody had their own version of the logo. I reintroduced what we call the Atari Crockett logo. I'm the guy who did the art for it.
I love that one, by the way.
People are still using it today. We did it as a gimmick on MAV TV just to see what happens from a programming point of view. Whenever we represented or acknowledged the LLC, we always used the NWA traditional logo, but the show logo was that, Crockett style logo. And then you had all these other folks that came in with difference of opinion. You had this guy called Costello, I remember, who was going to
JD
change
Costello.
the world. And then you had fucking Fred being an asshole and fucking everything up every which goddamn way. So it's what it is. And then Howard, it sucks he's fucking dead, but I would call Howard right now and still yell at him about shit he did. So it's and it's not a sore subject, by the way. I'm just passionate about what happened in the past because things could have been a whole lot different.
Yeah, and
as they say at the American Adventure at Walt Disney World at Epcot, Benjamin Franklin is talking to Thomas Jefferson, and he goes, Thomas, it's hard to get 13 clocks to chime at the same time. So that was our problem.
Yeah, from a fan perspective, I know a lot of us were just kind of we were excited about the tournament, and then just kind of got disappointed how it just like disappeared from play. Okay, so that was one question. My second question, old time, let's see what David Marquez can remember and tell us about NWA Showcase on Colors.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. That's fun.
Kind of 2 seasons of it. It was kind of promoted out to the fans as an NWA run show.
Yeah.
Now I've heard debates about whether it was an NWA run show or Marquez run
no,
show.
It was ran by me. It was ran by me.
I mean, we knew you ran it, but like we didn't know. Did you run it? Did you book it? Were you doing everything for it, or was it? Okay, that's one of the things I want to know. Okay, so it kind of ran for 2 seasons. I think there were 13, 14 episodes in each season. I don't remember exactly. I actually liked it. It was pretty good. We actually had a future world champion. You had a future world champion on there as your commentator, and Rob Conway. And so I really enjoyed the show when I watched it. But can you explain as to why it kind of ran 2 seasons and just 13 episodes in each season? And what was it like? Because, again, the NWA was kind of presenting it as in, here is our show.
Oh, yeah, that. I shot that.
Oh.
I found the picture. I just wanted to pull it out. Sorry.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Back to colors.
Yeah,
colors.
The reason is Pro Wrestling Organization LLC. That's the reason. It goes back to our version of Continental Congress and us not being able to order a cup of coffee together. And why Bob Trowbridge became the executive director, because the presidency was a bullshit title, and people who had it felt that they were truly in charge. Now that it's so far removed, I used LLC money when I was the treasurer to do stuff to benefit us when nobody else would do it without permission, and got tons of shit for it. But that's how you get Colt Cabana as the world champion. Like, no one wanted to do anything. We couldn't buy paper clips unless 31 of us said yes. It was stupid. It's outdated. The whole fucking territory thing is dumb. I was stupid for trying to bring it back.
You're making so many people sad right now, Dave, because we all love the
truth. It's like, listen, I will never agree with the NWA died because it didn't. Never. But the concept of territories or franchises, if there wasn't a uniform model to go by, and every area looked the same, a Big Mac's a Big Mac's a Big Mac, it doesn't work. Back in the day, it did work, although, ring colors were different and presentations were different. The meat was the same. It's just today, nobody cares.
Well, even back in the day, if you weren't a tape trader once tape started, and if you go back any further than that, what you saw in Texas happened in Texas, and really you read very little about it in wrestling magazines. They just kind of talk. So it was okay for big time wrestling, later world class, to have its look, its style, its way of presenting things. It was okay for Georgia Championship Wrestling to have its look and its style. But, then when they take off on TBS, there's some change. Mid-Atlantic was a tag team territory, even after they, started bringing in some of the other things. They did a lot of tag team wrestling. Mid-South had its style. Tri-State had its style. Mid-America had their style. They were all different, and nobody really knew what was going on in another territory. Just like they didn't really know, they didn't realize that, in a month, the champion defended the title against the same guy 27 times, because they're all on spot shows. They're all different things like that. And so I agree. You can't have an alliance in today's thing or a franchise unless it's a McDonald's type franchise thing. If you want to franchise it, then, and look, there's argument whether Ronquillo and them tried it at first, but you can't, but nobody wants to do it. And one former NWA promoter told me flat out he had no intention of putting over any NWA championship because it was his guys that it was important for him to have over.
And which one was this? It doesn't fucking matter. It's dead in that respect. Who was it? I'll tell you why they said that.
It was Tony Givens.
Okay. Well, Tony had his own chip. One, he wasn't a member. He was an associate. So he had no rights.
Well, he told me this when he was a licensee, but yeah.
Okay. That was with Bruce.
Right. But I mean, same concept. I mean,
Well, when I was running in Knoxville, and he was just down the street, he wouldn't even cooperate with me. And I tried. So it was his fiefdom. It was his concept. It was his idea.
And I feel like it was an idea that was shared a lot. One of the things that we fans.
Put it this way. What's his name? Tony Anthony? Is that his name?
Yeah.
Guy with the beard? Is that his name? Guy with the big beard, Anthony? Huh?
You talking about the former Tony Rumble?
No, not Tony Rumble. He's from that area. He was tag partners with Matt Riviera.
Greg Anthony.
Guys like that would never have been the NWA World Champion, and those are the guys he was using.
Right.
I think he's coming back, guys. Don't worry.
Yeah, that was his version of dropping the mic.
He dropped the mic.
That was drama.
And when he would bring in Jack Stane quite a bit, but he always put Jack Stane in the middle of the card against a mid-card guy.
Yep. I mean, again, in those territorial days, putting over the local guy was important. But in modern times, when people are watching Raw, and Raw is WrestleMania every Monday night, it doesn't work.
Hey, Dave. Why did they? Well, I know that you have a good relationship with Jack Sting. We've talked about this off the air, but could you tell us why you never were able to book him as a world champion after you left the NWA?
I was banned.
They wouldn't let you.
No, fuck no.
Would you have had Bruce been like, I don't give a fuck? Would you have?
Well, probably. I mean, that whole Bruce thing was hostile. Like that wasn't a good time. You know, going to court and judgments and all that stuff. That was not a good time.
Do you listen to the White Lavender Jones album? And what are your thoughts on it?
Again, it was very creative and quite possibly the best thing Bruce ever did.
I was there when a certain individual invaded Hollywood and attacked our world champion, and then that person would end up winning the championship later down the road. And you know who I'm talking about. I think everyone in the chat knows who I'm talking about. Would you have ever considered using the Sheik going forward, or is he a guy that you completely just no deal?
No, I'm not a fan of his at all. He still has the belt.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That brings me a question into my mind. It's basically been noted Sheik won the title because Ed Schumann wanted him to hold it.
Yes.
And Ed Schumann was a rarity in that I've never had any promoter I've talked to on or off the record say anything bad about him.
About Ed?
Yeah.
Oh, I could say tons of bad shit about Ed, but I love him.
But you know what? I mean, I'm not saying there's not bad things about him, but normally
and people can say tons of bad shit about me, and it's probably true.
Yeah. Normally when they talk about him, they talk about him well, and maybe it's because he's dead.
No, I mean Ed was a sweet man. Really salt of the earth type stuff.
Yeah,
he really believed in the concept of the NWA. He and I shared. I did an interview with him at one of the Greg Price deals, and we aired. I think we aired. I know when he died, we put a soundbite out from it, but the whole interview was really interesting, and we shot it at Hammond, Indiana, at the Hammond Civic Center, because I did a show there, and that was Ed's territory. So Ed was involved, but you know, Ed was telling me about the magic of wrestling and why he got involved from being in bands and concerts and being a roadie and all that, and how him and his family just fell in love with wrestling, and you know, people from the area, the Ace Steels and Danny Dominions and Kevin Quinns of the world, have a different perception of Ed because he was if you want to call him the mark promoter of the time, he was the vice president at a production company called Jam Productions, and that's how he got back into promoting wrestling, was because they had venues and a little bit of money, and then you know he got into the belt business with Reggie and blah 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 blah. But no, Ed's a sweet guy, and I miss him to this day. Ed had no reason to defend me when I joined the organization and was younger and was loud about change. Everybody hated me, and Ed stood up for as much as Ed could stand up. But Ed stood up and protected me every single time. He would rap his cane on the table, call an order. You know, he would call people that he disliked shit kitchen goofs. He would write in the meetings. He would call Ernie Todd a dime store Indian to his face, right in the middle of the meeting. Oh, that was Ed.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard the story.
Well,
I never knew.
Well, hang on. Let me take that back. It was me under my breath and Ed repeating it out loud.
So you said the quiet part, and he said the quiet part loud.
He sure did. I was like, this fucking dime store Indian.
I've heard the story multiple times. I've never had official confirmation on who said
it. Was me.
Okay.
I had Ed Schumann over here, and I had Dave Republic over here, and all three of us fucking despised the man. I watched him steal room service from a door as we were walking to the meeting and ate someone else's food in the meeting. Dave,
amazing.
This is Ernie Todd.
His first
day as president. His first day as president.
What he said is, I don't think Jaden heard you, so I'll repeat it. He, at walking to the meeting, he picked up somebody's food for room service that somebody was waiting for, and he snatched it up and ate it on the way to the meeting. Ate it during the meeting.
In the meeting, while he was president, his first day, he was eating stolen fucking breakfast.
Fuck.
I heard it. I was about to say that's about about as much carny as I've seen in wrestling. I've seen very similar shit in my life, and that doesn't surprise me at all.
Horrible. The other guy in Ohio was horrible. That
guy wanted to buy the NWA too.
What's that?
That guy wanted to buy the NWA as well.
Everybody, I tried buying it. The Anokis tried buying it through me. This woman named Jane Flood. That's how you guys get Dilip Singh. Like, it's all messed up. Like, it's so bad.
Well, now I have so many more thoughts. And
Dave, I know that you have.
Wait a minute. I actually kind of want to get back to my original question there when we start with Ed. So why do you? I mean, I know that Sheik promoted in Florida under Truman, but was Ed just so nice of a guy that was he a little bit blind to Sheik? Because a lot of us, question.
So the thing with the Sheik was, and he'll probably say it's not true, but it is very true. And how Ed presented it to us, which he shouldn't have done in one of the meetings, was when he was asked, and he may have been asked by either Trowbridge or Bill, why this guy? And granted, the Sheik was promoting pretty good shows in Florida, and often. But the true reason is his wife, I believe, worked for American Airlines, and we wouldn't have to pay for an airplane ticket. And then I suggested, well, let's put the North American title on him to see what kind of business he can do. And he proved in the very early stages that he couldn't do business.
Now that just brings up another thing I have to ask you about. So you mentioned it. He still has the belt that was made.
Yeah, that I made.
And that Craig Classic also.
Yeah, he stole the other belt. Yeah.
Took the other belt. And so first thought on Craig Classic. Was he just too young and stupid to realize that following the Sheik probably wasn't the best idea?
I didn't know him.
I mean, he was one of Sheik's guys.
Yeah, I didn't know him though. I don't know him.
Yeah,
I don't think I don't. If I met him once.
He was only champion because I couldn't arrange Ricky Reyes beating Quackenbush for it. I couldn't get Quackenbush booked because that was originally supposed to be Ricky Reyes winning the belt. I say that every time. He only got it because I couldn't get it on Ricky Reyes.
Oh, I've never heard Ricky Reyes' name come up once as consideration for the World Juniors title.
Yeah, they were trying to get it off Quackenbush for any means necessary, and they were trying anybody, and Ricky Reyes was
when you say they, who is they?
Trowbridge was trying to get anybody.
Bob never talked about that with us.
He was trying to get the belt off of it.
Because all Bob wanted me to do was send it to Japan, which is what we did.
Yeah. I think that's part of how they thought they were going to do it, because Reyes was working in Japan too at the time, wasn't he?
Reyes really wasn't working in Japan at that time.
No, not at all.
No.
Not even Mexico.
No.
I know he's doing Puerto Rico around then, because he was he held a junior heavyweight championship there, and I swore he was working in Japan too.
No.
Yeah, no. No, Reyes and I have been friends longer than most people understand. I knew Reyes when he was in junior high.
But that was the original plan because before Classic got it, because they were really trying to get the belt off of Quackenbush.
That's interesting. I never heard that.
I had
So, yeah.
He never told me who. And for people who want to know who my secret source was back in the NWA days of those time, I talked to Bob Trowbridge a lot. So whenever people were going, oh, who's his unnamed source? It was Trowbridge. And
I'll never tell my source.
Well, Trowbridge unfriended me after he quit. So, just.
He did, though.
I still talk to Bob to this day.
Yeah, he did, but it's been long enough now that it doesn't matter.
The next time you talk to Bob, tell him I said hi.
Sure.
I will.
Hey,
but anyway, I remember I had a conversation with him that he was looking. He never said who. He never told me who, but that he was looking to get the belt off Quackenbush at all costs, because we were complaining about the tag team champions who were the Skull Crushers, and we're complaining about the junior heavyweight champion who was Quack, because they were holding the title like 2+ years, and they had stopped defending it like 6 months after.
Well, that's not their. But the thing is, that's not their fault.
Right.
It's
It is his fault. I tried to book Quackenbush 100 times. He was.
Yeah, maybe he had a problem with you. I always used him anytime I wanted him.
He probably did. Apparently, I have heat with everybody without even know how I got it. Half of it, I think, is just by association.
I do too.
Yeah. I think half of it's by association. People I know because the people hate me because of people I know. But
I've done nothing but become successful. So everybody hates me.
That's the best way to become hateful or hated, to become successful.
I don't give a fuck. I mean, I think everybody knows that. I don't give a shit. But it's like with Bob or Quackenbush or the Skull Crushers, because I think we put the belts on Los Luchas after that in Texas when the opportunity came up.
No, the Los Luchas took.
Or
was
it the other way around?
Yeah, the Skull Crushers took the belts off of Los Luchas.
Okay,
Skull Crushers lost
because
Dark
nobody
City
wanted to
Fight
book
Club.
them either. No one wanted Los Luchas. And Los Luchas were fantastic and cheap, but no one wanted to use them.
Well,
Is it because they were?
I've always heard this as a problem. Tag team champions are hard to book because nobody wants to pay twice as much for a.
And anyone is hard to book because no one wants to pay anything.
Well, that's true. But, if you're booking, and I don't know all the costs for everybody involved. I hear stuff all the time. I don't know, but it can be contradictory. And some of it's because I suppose guy charges one promoter one thing, another promoter something else. But, I've just always heard, if I want a title match, I'll bring in X champion, which they never did. And, but I'm not going to pay for two wrestlers for the tag team belts.
That's their business. Yeah, that's their business. I mean, history proves and shows that I paid for everybody to go everywhere.
They've brought in every champion. I mean, Mike DiBiase is the North American champion. Apollo as the North American champion. Phil Shatter is the national champion. Dark City Fight Club. Or no, I'm sorry. No, you didn't bring in Dark City, but you did bring in the Skull Crushers. And there's a misnomer, too, that Dave was the only one that booked Adam Pearce, which is total bullshit because if you look at Pearce's title defenses, he actually worked less promotions associated with Marquez in that first year as champion than he did for Marquez. He was working in Virginia. He was working West Virginia, all over the place.
Well, that's because Adam's a good business person, and he
100%.
He knew how to talk to everybody and brother them the right way and make what's his name O'Brien feel like someone important.
Hey, speaking of that, let's talk about official Alliance Guy member Kevin Frazier, Kevin Douglas, who's the junior heavyweight title champion. He used him out in California. So what do you think about him? We often called him kind of like the Adam Pearce because he was wrestling all over the country. Anybody that was willing to book him, he went, for a fair price. We called him Coast to Coast one time because he started the week on doing a fire taping in New Jersey and ended the week doing a Hollywood taping.
He literally one weekend was on an episode of Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, and the same weekend he was on an episode of NWA on Fire.
He was also on, if I remember, he was also on Mountain State that week too.
He might have been.
And he was in that didn't even include shows in Texas for non-NWA promotions.
Sure.
So I like to give Kevin a hard time.
I like
but
him. He was a good guy. I liked him. But how he got around and the deals that he made were very unique because him and the Manimal would drive everywhere.
Right.
So it was it was a economical thing for everybody, and everyone was happy.
By the way, Kevin had only like the best things to say about you. He always talks glowingly about his time working in Glendale and Anaheim, and even that first casino show that you guys did. Nothing but good things to say about you.
Oh, yes. Sure. Thank you. It's I try to be fair, and it's when others who don't want to cooperate, that's normally when friction starts. And I've never been one to keep my mouth shut, even though I was the kid. I was old. I mean, I'm just going to be 50 next week. So I've been doing this a long time. And
great, make me feel older than I already feel.
And yeah, but think about it. I've been making television since '94. So
you were really a kid in '94. Well, I saw the photos.
I've been watching television since '68.
Oh, good for you.
Well, probably not watching in '68. That was the year I was born.
If I was born in '68, I'm sure I would have been watching it too. But seriously, this is in February. It will be 34 years of me being in wrestling, and everybody that I was around, I've always taken something from, good and bad, and how to utilize both good and bad to get to what you need. It is politics, exactly what people talk about. Not politics, how they're going to fuck people or this or that. I don't subscribe to that. But within the business side of it, we're all our own little countries. We're all our own little kingdoms, fiefdoms, whatever you want to call it. And you have to cooperate and work with people. And how to trade stuff, how to work with stuff, how to Impact's bringing somebody, New Japan's bringing somebody, I'm bringing somebody. How do we all work together in the ecosystem, sharing on flights and hotels and fees and all that stuff. And it's kind of like the United Nations where we all have to get along. And sometimes it works fabulously, and sometimes it just 100% implodes. And it's not because there was an effort behind it to be positive to begin with. So, that's just my perception on how this stuff works. But yeah, the NWA, I was a part of it for 24 years, not consecutively, but in a 24-year span. And I think we did an awful lot of good, way more than we did bad. And trying to legitimize the organization was the difficult part because you had so many people that didn't want to legitimize it. And now, again, not to get into real politics, but, when people are hiding things and who they really are as humans, that's usually why they're against stuff. So there's so many scandals now and things that here's a prime example. It's not a secret. Mike Porter was in trouble for doing ugly things in his mortuary. Horrible. But we had, and it really was red state, blue state in the NWA. Absolutely. And we had all these red state people trying to kill one of their own. And 60-70% of those people all were in prison and has been proven that they did something horrendous.
Yeah.
And they were the ones keeping the organization down and progressing. And they've all fucked themselves for being pieces of shit.
We're going to put that on the t-shirt right there. Dave. Go ahead, Jaden. Go ahead.
I don't get this opportunity, so I'm going to take advantage of this. I love hearing somebody in the television business. That's my thing I always wanted to be, and I love hearing that. Now, I made a statement earlier that I don't think that it's good to have a lot of wrestling promotions fighting for scraps. I see it in New Jersey, where there's 72,994,811 promotions, all trying to run. Most of them trying to run the same damn building or within inches of each other. Back when I remember when there was barely anybody promoting in Jersey, especially South Jersey. And I see the same things: people using the same wrestlers, with the same talent, or using people that don't even belong as fans, let alone inside the ring. And there's not a lot of quality talent out there, in my opinion, that people are fighting over in the major promotions to present a company that's a competitive company. I 1000% believe that if somebody with actual money could take the best of MLW, the best of Impact, the best of the NWA, and under one banner, take every wrestler that's somebody that deserves to be on television, they could be competitive promotion. But unfortunately, everybody else, there's some good guys here, some good guys there, some good guys everywhere. Am I wrong in believing that there should be maybe a third viable promotion, something different, something that's not sports entertainment, something that's not whatever AEW puts on, something that's using the wrestlers out there and give a real true alternative? Wrestling will be stronger in the process. I got you. How we?
I'm not saying you're wrong, but there are those alternatives. I mean, different strokes for different folks. GCW seems to be doing fine. You know, they're going around the world. Whoever's financing that, they're doing it. And they're the ones getting the headlines. And I directed that for, probably a good year at GCW. I didn't care for a lot of what they did, but not to say I know how difficult it is to draw in Los Angeles, and they have full crowds every show. So to try to create a conglomerate, I just don't see that that's something that one, the industry, I hate that term, but I said it, the wrestling sphere needs. It also then, like a lot of people like to say that WWE is a monopoly, which isn't true at all. We have to be able to go out and do what we do. And when you talk about a WWE refugee, someone who is no longer there, they were all once upon a time with us to begin with anyway. So they're put back in the general population. It's just how you look at it, not spin it, how you look at it.
My perception, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So, the Northeast has always been interesting to me. I didn't make it out there, I feel, because I don't have that wrestling perception, since the WWE is so close to Jersey, New York, or whatnot. But I did have a great relationship with the Savoldi family, and they're right in the middle of all that stuff, and we're so connected. But they never even looked at it that perspective, like, oh, this is this. No, they just went out and did shows and made money, or stole money, or whatever you want to say. I saw Dennis Carluso steal tons of money, so it's
he's an interesting character.
It's what it is, It's we need to have our own. We need to have our own operations. And here's what I do, like, let's use Willie Mack as an example. When he works for me, he's a different persona. When he's on Impact, he's something else. Or even a Zicky Dice. When he's with me, or Peter Avalon, he's Hulk Hogan when he's with me. All of those people that I just talked about. But everybody else, they're just job guys.
Real quick, I've taken some medications that are starting to wipe me out. But I want
1968, we get it.
68. My brother was 58. And yes, I'm old. But I do want to thank Dave for coming on here. I think this is proof. We always respect our guests when we come on here, and I certainly appreciate the chance to talk to Dave and ask him questions. We don't always see eye to eye on things, but the one thing I've always given him credit for is his production values and the work that he's done. He's been around a long time, and I don't want to take anything away from them. But I do need to say goodbye, and I do want to say thank you, Dave.
You got it. Thank you.
All right, we'll see you later, DK.
Since I have Dave on too, I wanted to say this to Jay because I know Jay's going to get a kick out of it. You are the reason that I say that Dog runs events, not shows.
Oh, it's true.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is I'm quick to call his events shows, Dave, and he corrects me almost faster than you could blink. No, Jay.
Dog doesn't run shows. We run events.
Every single damn time.
I mean,
And he told me that at the was it the NWA Legends Fan Fest is when he first told me that.
Yeah, it's just like it's just the public. The public's already confused about everything in general. And then you want to put something like a show. It's like, well, what do you mean a show? Because when I was a kid, you go to the movies, you were going to the show. Like,
yeah,
you didn't go to the movies then. You were going to the show. You're looking up show times, you know? So that's my other problem with the term independent wrestling. I despise it. It's horrible because the public for, at that point, 100 years knew it as pro wrestling, and then all of a sudden it's independent wrestling, and people are like, what the fuck is that? That backyard wrestling? Is that, So it's just nomenclature is very, very important. And us people within wrestling, no matter where you're at on the totem pole, we don't do ourselves any service. We are the ones killing ourselves. We are killing wrestling, us, the promoters, the wrestlers, the people on the inside. It's not the fans, it's us.
He's right. He is right. Wrestlers have killed. How many times, I'm sure you say the same thing, how many times have you met a wrestler who really should have been on the other side of the guardrail?
Well, that part doesn't, I'm not talking about that part necessarily. There's always room for someone, and it's just, whether you want to use them or not. I mean, I've used people that I've questioned over time, why we gave them the opportunity, for sure. But I'm not even talking about the wrestling. I'm talking more the presentation to the public and how you speak to the public and the perception the public is making on what you're saying, because these people only know, Andre, Hulk Hogan, Roddy Piper, Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes. Those are wrestlers. Even an Adam Pearce is a nobody to people. And even when I talk to people today, even in the mainstream, that Adam virtually is the star of SmackDown, that, even today people don't know who Adam is, unfortunately. And he's on television more than any of them.
Dave, I don't know if you remember this. You probably don't, because it probably happened more than once. One of my best buddies who doesn't watch your product at all, only had been to a handful of indie shows back in the day, but is a huge WWE fan, happened to be WWE. Yeah, I said it right. Okay. Happened to be at Disneyland once when you were there with Shane and Adam and a couple other guys. And he recognized Adam because he had seen Adam at a wrestling show before. And he walked up to you and says, "Hey, my friend really enjoys your show. And I just wanted to say hi." And you guys looked at him like he was the weirdest dude ever. And he still tells me that story every time we talk about California wrestling. I bring it up and he says, "Oh yeah, remember that time I said hi to your friend Dave?" I said, "Yeah, I remember." Anyways, it
was probably the situation. We were probably trying not to be noticed or doing something that we probably shouldn't have been doing.
Well, Dave, I appreciate you so much jumping on here. I would love to have you back on in a proper interview type show when we have some news to announce, when you have something to tell me. But I do want to say thank you for coming on. A lot of people hear us say things on this show and then they're like, "Oh, these fucking guys." But you actually came on and at least tried to help educate, and the people in the chat have been eating it up. Everyone in here is saying things like, "Oh, Dave saved championship wrestling. Dave saves wrestling." There's been a lot of comments that people are thanking you for your coming on and all that good stuff. So, we go back a long ways, and I appreciate you always. That. But thank you for jumping on with us tonight, Dave.
You got it, man. And thanks for everyone say the kind words. And if you're thinking ugly thoughts, at least you're thinking. So thanks for those too.
All right, we're gonna say goodnight, Dave. You have a good one, and I'll give you a buzz later.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, have a good one.
See you guys.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media at The Alliance Blog. And until next time, we are The Alliance.